The following may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Decomposing body discovered by man searching for firewood in Cunaripo. Police are trying to identify the body of a man which was discovered in a forested area of Cunaripo, Sangre Grande on Wednesday morning. Police said a man was walking on the Guaco-Tamana Road at around 11:25 a.m. searching for firewood when he discovered a decomposing body of a man in a pool of water. Police went to the area and were guided to the spot by the man about 200 feet into the forest. The body was clad in a pair of red three-quarter pants and a brown vest. Crime scene investigators and a district medical officer visited the area and ordered the body to be removed to the Forensic Science Center in St. James. Officers of the Homicide Bureau of Investigations Region 2 are continuing inquiries. Relatives of Gasparillo fire victim 16-year-old Kimberly Chattergoon inconsolable at funeral. Relatives of Kimberly Chattergoon, 16, were inconsolable during her funeral at the Sacred Heart RC Church in Gasparillo on Wednesday. Kimberly was severely burned in the fire at her family's Caratal Road home in Gasparillo on June 25. 3 other family members also died in the fire. Her grandmother, Evelina Miller, and her 5-year-old granddaughter, Amy Chattergoon, and Tender Heart, 22, the pregnant girlfriend of her grandson, Trey Chattergoon. Grant was 6 months pregnant. Kimberly died from her injuries at the San Fernando General Hospital on June 28. An autopsy on June 30 at the San Fernando General Hospital mortuary found that Kimberly died from carbon monoxide poisoning and multiple organ failure. She was a student of the Southern Academy Secondary School. During the funeral service, several of Kimberly's relatives were unable to contain their grief and openly cried out, "Oh no, Kimberly, no. No, no, no. Why the baby had to die? No, Kimbo, no." Delivering the homily at the funeral, Father Alan Hall lamented that Kimberly was the second youngest person whose funeral he had to officiate. The first person was a 5-month-old child. He quoted lines from a Linda Ellis poem, The Dash. The poem speaks about everything a person can experience in their life between birth and death. In acknowledging the grief that Kimberly's relatives and friends were experiencing because she died at such a young age and in tragic circumstances, Hall said they could take some comfort in the words of the poem. There is life beyond death. Hall said it was clear that Kimberly had her head on straight and had a connection with God. He told the congregation that everyone must fold up their tents sometime on earth. Whenever this happens, another tent unfolds in heaven. While Kimberly's dash on earth was fleeting, Hall believed her journey continued in heaven. Hall said, "This is not the end of the story." He urged members of the congregation to reflect on Kimberly's life and learn from it to better their own lives. Marcia Wallace, one of Kimberly's teachers at Southern Academy Secondary School, told the congregation that she was a model student. Wallace said teachers can often see how their students' family backgrounds shape them over time. She told Kimberly's family that their positive and nurturing influence on her character was evident. "God will see you through this situation," she said. Other relatives and friends who spoke at the service described Kimberly as free-spirited, happy, and always respectful to other people. On July 1st, Miller's son and Kimberly's father, Louis Chattergoon, said the family hoped to have one funeral for the victims. At that time, Only Kimberly's body had been released to the family. Once the DNA results confirm the identities of the other 3 victims, their bodies will be released. Suspect in fatal hit-and-run of photojournalist detained. Police investigating the fatal hit-and-run accident involving Guardian Media photographer Anthony Harris have made a breakthrough with the detention of the owner of a vehicle believed to have been involved in the incident. This was confirmed on Wednesday evening by T&T Police Service Public Information Officer Sheridan Hill. Officers detained the suspect yesterday after their investigation led them in a certain direction. It is understood that officers were able to identify the license plate number and the name it was registered to from the licensing authority. Officers were then able to track the suspect and the vehicle to central Trinidad, where he was detained. However, officers must now interrogate the suspect to ascertain whether he was driving the vehicle at the time of the incident. Investigating officers said the vehicle was also freshly painted, and as such, it was sent to the Special Evidence Recovery Unit for testing. Guardian Media was reliably informed that while officers received new footage of the incident, since the original CCTV footage was very poor, they were in fact able to use the testimony of eyewitnesses to identify the license plate number and the suspect. Anthony Harris, 60, was cycling around the Queen's Park Savannah in Port of Spain on Saturday when the driver of a white car plowed into him and fled the scene. Harris died on Sunday morning at the Port of Spain General Hospital. Police, family members, and other stakeholders had appealed to the driver to turn himself in before he was detained. Head of Police Special Victims Department warns women to beware of stalkers. Women must not underestimate male stalkers, as this behavior may be a prelude to homicide, warned Acting Superintendent Claire Guy Allen, head of the Special Victims Department of the Police Service, on Wednesday. She spoke on the theme, Stalking and Steps to Get Help, at an online seminar on gender-based violence launched by Gender Affairs Minister Ayanna Webster Roy, on the overall theme, Death Before Divorce. Why are some men able to walk away? Guy Allen began by urging people not to ask why women victims did not leave abusive relationships when in fact it was the abusers who should leave. She revealed that abusers could be of any age, race, or religion, saying there is no single profile of a domestic violence perpetrator. However, she said perpetrators all shared certain traits such as being assertive and intimidatory and displaying controlling behavior and psychological and physical abuse. However, abusers could sometimes be agreeable and kind and really nice. Literature indicates that it is not always a mental health illness, she said. Guy Allen said abuse was not about the perpetrator losing control, but was about the opposite, that is them displaying power and control. Perpetrators know what they are doing. She said an episode of abuse typically consists of a cycle of tension-building violent episode and reconciliation, even as perpetrators often reoffend. Guy Allen warned that reconciliation was a very dangerous time. Deaths can occur. I'm warning persons to be very, very careful when you are thinking about reconciliation. Ensure it is done with some structure and assistance. Don't take the offender's word, "I'm sorry, it's not going to happen again. You caused it to happen." Be careful with those words. Do not play with your life. Guy Allen urged women seeking to leave an abusive relationship to reach out to friends or family or the TTPS Special Victims Department to assist with planning a safe escape. She urged victims thinking of leaving to keep a record of the abuse, including photos, bloodied clothing, and hospital visits. Just have a little notebook in a certain place at home or at work. If you think you are being stalked, do not take that lightly. Anytime you see a perpetrator start to stalk his survivor or the victim, listen to me. That person is getting ready to erase you. That is how serious it is. We have had 1 or 2 instances where that has occurred. Guy Allen said if a victim starts seeing a perpetrator showing up at her workplace or at the grocery store where she visits, she must not think these things are coincidental. You are being stalked. Once you think you are being stalked, take it very, very seriously. Stalking prevents the victim from being able to cut off contact with the abusive partner. Be careful. Often, stalking causes the victim to experience so much fear and anxiety. She said the police will help victims who reach out, but victims need to help provide statements, evidence, and corroborating witnesses. At the Special Victims Department, we assist in applications for protection orders. We do welfare checks on our survivors and even the perpetrators. If there is an order in effect, perpetrators may think twice because we are always in your face to ensure that you are abiding by any orders the court may have or that you are keeping the peace and everything is well at home. Guy Allen is committed to working with everyone to make TT become free of gender-based violence. Man succumbs to injuries 4 days after being attacked in a Manzanilla bar. A 44-year-old Cunaripo man died on Wednesday in hospital 4 days after being during a fight in a Manzanilla bar. Police report that Rishi Masti was at the Junction Bar at the corner of Eastern Main Road and Plum Road at around 9:50 p.m. on Saturday when he got into an altercation with another limer. During the altercation, the man pulled out a knife and Masti several times in his face, neck, and back. Passers-by took Masti to the Sangre Grande Hospital, where he was hospitalized in critical condition. He died around 2 a.m. on Wednesday, police said. A 33-year-old Biche man was arrested the same night and a folding pocket knife believed to be the homicide weapon was seized. An autopsy is expected to be done at the Forensic Science Center in St. James. Detectives from the Homicide Bureau of Investigations Region 2 are continuing inquiries. Judge orders Marival woman to demolish a section of her home after dispute with neighbor. A Marival woman has been given a little over a month to comply with a court order compelling her to demolish a section of her home which was found to encroach on a neighbor's property or face 7 days imprisonment. Delivering a decision earlier this week, High Court Judge Betsy Ann Lambert Peterson upheld an application to hold Donna Lynn Moore of Moraldo Street, Marival, in contempt of court for breaching the court order obtained by her neighbor, Cassandra Sylvester Henry. In the application, Sylvester Henry's lawyers, Martin George and McKesey Jerome, noted that former High Court judge and current appellate judge James Aboud granted their client the order in October 2017 and varied it in February 2018. They claim that while Moore was ordered to demolish a section of her home and other adjoining structures on Sylvester Henry's land, she committed further encroachment by expanding her home. Under the terms of Lambert Peterson's order, Moore was given until August 31st to comply with the previous court orders. In the event that she fails to meet the new deadline, Moore will have to serve 7 days of simple imprisonment at the women's prison in Arouca. If Moore is eventually committed to the prison for continued non-compliance, she is to be immediately released if her relatives manage to complete the work before the prison term elapses. As part of her decision, Justice Lambert Peterson also ordered Moore to pay the legal costs incurred by Henry in bringing the application. Moore was represented by Crystal Paul.
This program contains material of a disturbing nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
The current global outbreak of monkeypox is already the largest to occur outside of countries where it is endemic, and concern continues to escalate. However, while the World Health Organization is reporting that many cases are occurring among men who are homosexuals, it's not a disease that's limited to these individuals. In fact, believing that it is, or stigmatizing those with it, could be dangerous. Veterinary virology professor at the University of the West Indies, Professor Christopher Ora, explained that everyone is susceptible to the disease and needs to be aware of that fact. Anybody could feel that they're not going to be susceptible to it if they're not gay or homosexual, and that's definitely not the case. So all people need to be aware they can get this virus, he said. Because we now know that it is spreading, we all have to be aware of the clinical signs of the symptoms, and we have to be aware of it. How it spreads and the risk of that, whether we're gay men, homosexual men, whether we're heterosexual, whether we're female, whether we're kids. We all have to be aware that we are all potentially at risk. He explained its transmission is less about the act of intercourse and more about close physical contact with someone who is infected. Monkeypox is transmitted via close contact. What happens is you get various symptoms that end up with basically pox-like lesions or spots. Those spots often occur in certain areas, hands and face within the mucous membranes of the mouth and on the genital regions. So it's close contact with those spots when they're exuding, when they're releasing virus, when they're releasing pus or fluid. There's loads and loads of virus inside these spots, he said. So any way of a person getting into contact with someone who has those spots, then they're likely to pass on the virus. He said the spots also occur inside the mouth, meaning the monkeypox virus can also be found in saliva, which spreads via droplets. Children, he said, are susceptible to a more severe infection because unlike older people, they aren't vaccinated against smallpox. The smallpox vaccine offers some protection against monkeypox. There currently aren't any confirmed suspected monkeypox cases in TNT, but even if it arrives, Professor Ora said it's likely to be a repeat of COVID-19. Yesterday, Health Minister Terence Dayal-Singh also urged people not to stigmatize the disease. We must not stigmatize any person or any group of people. This is an area of public health that has the potential to affect any one of us, especially if we're in close skin-to-skin contact with someone, he said. He said the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPA, has the capacity to test for monkeypox. He said PAHO also gave test kits to TNT for use at the Trinidad Public Health Lab.
Now it seems to be primarily affecting queer men, but it can easily spread to anyone. And according to my doctor and also to this NPR article, the CDC is doing a really lackluster job of tracking how many cases there actually are due to lags in testing and just generally not being on top of it. These are the main ways it spreads. So you can see it's mainly through direct body, prolonged skin-to-skin contact, through respiratory secretions, so like kissing or sex or whatever, sharing items such as bedding or towels that have been exposed, etc. And I can tell you what it's like to have it because I currently do, as you can clearly see. So warning ahead, there are going to be some gross spots. You can see these here on my face. These are thankfully healing the fastest. I've got these on my arms and hands that you can see. They are really not cute. Got one on my tummy here. And those are just a few of the ones on my body. I think in total I counted more than 25. And there are also some in more sensitive areas, which also tend to be the most painful.